What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing something interesting. Today we are going to compare my rank 3 SIG 200 Antivenom against my rank 3 SIG 200 Void. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm quite curious to see how does he fare in comparison to Void. Because if you look on paper, Antivenom has so many utilities or different abilities, but Void, he has quite a few, but there are only 2 or 3 most important ones that people care about. Notably the Petrify, the damage over time, and perhaps the Incinerate immunity. But Antivenom has quite a lot, so in this video, we're going to compare them directly, and I'm going to come up with a point system. You can completely ignore this. It's absolutely okay. This is just what I'm using to quote-unquote objectively see who is better. The way I'm going to do this is that if there is more than 13, 14, 15% difference in the time taken to take down a fight, then the champion who won gets a point. If there is less than that, if the difference is, let's say, only 10%, then neither of them get a point, or both of them get a point. It's the same thing. You can completely ignore this system if you don't want, or if you don't agree with how I categorize them or how I award those points. But that's how I think it's going to work, for me at least. And I also want to mention that whenever I talk about anything regarding which champion is better, I'm only talking about Void and Antivenom. I'm not comparing anybody else in this video. So the only 2 champions that exist in this video for comparison are these 2, obviously. Now, some people are not really going to care about the damage comparison, but, I just thought it would be decent. It would be good to start off with it so we get it out of the way. I'm pretty sure there are lots of these damage comparisons out there too. Antivenom is a slow start. You need to get to that SP3. I think I dropped an SP1 too. Then you need to get to an SP3. Then you need to get to an SP1 again, and then your SP2, or at least for medium-ish fights, medium to long fights. And it's no surprise that Antivenom is going to take this. I don't know if you thought that Void is going to win, but, Antivenom clearly has the better damage. It was pretty funny when I did my 1 revive Abyss Green Goblin challenge. I took down 50% of Mordo in Abyss, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, that's that. Obviously, Antivenom is going to get the point here. I think this was about 25-30 seconds far, the KO. Maybe it would have been a bit faster if I ran Resonate, but I don't really run Resonate, so it's without it. Up next, we have Wolverine. Now, you can completely ignore this comparison, because if you want to reverse regen, you bring Antivenom, you bring Void, they're going to do the job. It doesn't matter if they take like 20 seconds longer, 30 seconds longer, but they're going to get the job done. Of course, we all know that Void is quite RNG dependent. He may not really get his Petrifies up early, but Antivenom, on the other hand, gets access to his Petrifies on his SP1, which are only 40% potent, but it is something. And at the same time, he has a lot of debuffs, plus he has that Spectre. So in my opinion, you can completely ignore this point if you want to. They're both going to get the job done regardless, but Antivenom is far more reliable if you need it really quickly. That's the only difference, in my opinion, from watching what happened there. The next comparison is Masochism, and this is clearly Void's domain. I even compared Reed Richards to Void in one of my previous videos. And, Void won that fairly easily. So when it comes to Masochism, Void is much better champion. And that's why I sped up the Antivenom fight by 200%. So it's double the speed, so pretty much took double the time. But there's a problem here because Antivenom is not getting his Clintar debuff. So I think that's a bug. I don't think Antivenom is terrible for Masochism, as you can see over here. He's not terrible. And if his debuff, or if his debuffs weren't bugged, I think he would do decent. He would not beat Void by any chance, any margin whatsoever. But I think he would still do pretty well. So I brought this up with Simula. I think he's going to go and check with the devs what's wrong with it. This issue also exists against debuff immune fights like limited immunity node. His Clintar debuff doesn't proc because, it's supposed to come back every 10 seconds or every 15 seconds. But the way it's worded, it seems like it's only going to come back once after 15 or 10 seconds, whichever that is. Or 15 seconds, I think. Which is pretty weird for me, but it is what it is. Okay, up next, we're going up against Buffet. And this is Do Not Go Gentle, 200% combat power rate, and Buffet. So the great thing about Antivenom is that you can just bypass Buffet by not triggering it. You can take everything on the block. That's not going to make him faster. I think one of his main appeals is that regen reversal. So I think you do want to trigger Buffet, but both Antivenom and Void have this dash back where they dash back without actually triggering Dex. So I think Antivenom is going to take it for a while, but then at the end, Void is going to clutch it, and he's going to win. But the difference was only like 12 or 13%. Let's see. But yeah, like I said, you can see there, both of them a fair bit hard to trigger that Dex. And Void does have to do a lot of heavies. I mean, of course, I can just ignore it. I could have brought Heimdall and just ignored the Do Not Go Gentle, but I wanted to try out in the full capacity of these nodes. Like I wanted to do as if it's a proper run, even though it's just like one fight. So you can see like Antivenom is doing pretty well, but Drax got a bit too passive over there, which is the main reason why I have that 15% leeway, because sometimes the AI gets passive. Sometimes you aren't playing at your best. Sometimes the RNG is bad or something happens. So the difference, I think, was about 15%. So I decided not to give anyone a point because they both are going to get the job done. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Ideally, you would say that Void is better power control champion, and I agree with it. I'm going to come back to that in a bit. But in this scenario, Antivenom just shuts down the power gain buff because he gets up to 2 staggers on his heavies, and that is the easiest power control you can see. If you're going up against powerful from afar, there's that node that gives you surcharge or supercharge where you get power gain over 15 seconds or something, or Hyperion, or if there are other power gain champions. Hey, Antivenom can deal with it. However, I do think Void is better in instances where there is kinetic transference, and instances like there is another one I'm forgetting. Damn. There's a node like that, similar to kinetic transfer. It's blanking right now. Power Snack. It's not a node like that, but Power Snack. So Void is obviously better for Power Snack as well. So do I give a point? No. So I don't give a point anywhere over here, but I can see Void getting a point here because clearly I'm not debating that they're equal in power control. There are different types of power control. So that's why I think Void is better in certain types of them. But Antivenom can also do certain types of power control. But I'm completely okay if, you say, no, Void is better power control. I think that's the biggest appeal he has alongside Regen Control. It's just that it's RNG dependent, which I don't really like. Anyways, this is a path somewhere in Act 6 where so I don't know all the nodes that are over here, but I think one of the nodes is each time you throw a special, you enervate them, and whenever you enervate them, or whenever the enervate is about to expire, if you have a debuff, it's going to consume that to place another enervate. I made this comparison with Reed as well, so I just thought it might be cool to see who is more debuff heavy. And I think Antivenom is far more debuff heavy just because, those heavies, you get like 2 staggers. He can have at once, if you throw that SP3, I think he can have like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 debuffs on you, which is pretty cool. I think only Mr. Fantastic can get more than, a proper science champion could get. But anyways, that doesn't matter. There was also Supercharger, which was a node I was telling you about where they gain power every 15 seconds and they gain I don't know if it's a bar or something, but those heavies, they just neutralize them. So in this situation, I think Antivenom is faster and better just because he has more access to debuffs that, even if they're consumed, it doesn't matter because Void is struggling to get his Fear of the Void up. And maybe if I ran Resonate, it would have helped, but I don't run it. So I'm not really going to buy it, or I'm not going to use that just for this one comparison because I don't run it on the regular. Okay, this is a fun node. This is the 6.3, the Hydra Adaptoid Power Sting path. And I brought in, of course, the Mr. Fantastic synergy for both of them. And we're going to see how they both do over here. I personally have my money on Antivenom because the power stings are based on modified attack. So once you drop that SP3, your attack is just going to go through the roof. I just throw it over there. I don't know why I banged it. Thought he was coming in. It doesn't matter. It's not like we're going to die. Act 6 is nerfed, so it sucks, but it is what it is. So there I took off quite a bit of it. Void is doing, he's doing pretty good too. He's full health, but that's because Antivenom ate a special. And I think Void is also going to take it round about here. So I don't give anyone any points because I think they're pretty close. Makes no sense. Now, okay, sorry. Firstly, I'm sorry about, comparing Sunspot and Cap Marvel, but they're basically the same fight. This fight is on 7.1, opposite to the Eat Crow path, where there is Footloose, there is Stun Vulnerability, and I think there is Transducer or something. So for this comparison, I'm going to be very strict, and you can choose to ignore it, that's fine, but I'm going to be strict in giving points because there is attack modification, and you can see Void benefits from it quite a lot because each time you stun, he can tick for 5 or 6 ticks where he does his modified damage because, stun vulnerability, you get 200% extra attack. But for Antivenom, that's only like 2 or 3 hits. So Footloose, of course, Antivenom is better because he has slow, but he has another way of dealing with it, and that's his staggers. Void, again, I'm just comparing these two particular champions over here. You may not even bring any of them when you're actually taking this path, but comparing only these two champions here, Antivenom easily takes it because he has that access to slow, his unique slow, and he has access to staggers as well. And as I mentioned, he has access to that slow, so we're obviously going to test this Mesmerize path. Of course, he's not going to... Well, there are two ways for him to prevent evade. One, whenever he has a Clintar debuff, he's going to make sure that the Spider-Verse heroes cannot evade. So naturally, you can see all those evades failed. But at the same time, he also has access to that slow, which also reduces the chance to evade. So that is something pretty unique in his kit. I think that's pretty awesome because decelerates can actually apply to skill champions too, which is, the only champion who can slow every class. There is no other champion like that, and that's a neat bit of utility. I go for the kill here. I don't know if I was gonna get it. I got really lucky. I started tapping the block, so yeah, there you go. I got lucky. I got him down. That's what really matters. Yeah, so as you can see, it's not like Void cannot do this fight. He can, but it's just that he's going to take his time. He cannot hit that freely. Even though he has that evade debuff, I don't think that's really reliable because we've seen a lot of, like I've watched Coop slow play Mordo in Abyss with his Void, and he had like Fear of the Void and that evade debuff on, but Mordo still evaded. So it's not really reliable, or it might be bugged, who even knows. Okay, up next here we have the Gimme Path in 6.3 or 6.4. And of course, Antivenom is really good for this because he has all that regen. Void is also able to deal full damage, mostly because he always has that Power Sync debuff on him. But there are a couple of mistakes I make over here, especially with Antivenom, where I heal up. Like over here, I'm full health, so my damage is going to be gimped. But with Void, you're almost never at full health because at least I'm blocking over here special attacks, so I get a bit lower on health and try to regen it. But yeah, if you have a better strategy, easily they're both about the same time. They take about the same time. It's just like a fun little comparison to see. I don't think this path is really that difficult anymore. There are so many champions who can deal with Gimme now. Plus, you can just have that Power Sting and Willpower and you're just going to heal. So the difference wasn't that much, pretty close, so I decided to not give any points. Now here, once more, I'm going to be quite strict because this is Hazard Shift in 7.3, but you get modified attack. So each time you prevent an immunity, you get a buff, and there is buffet, but Science champions are immune to buffet on this path, so you're going to get Furies, which means that your damage is modified, and any difference means that in a scenario where there isn't modified damage, you're not going to be able to match the other champion. So even though it was very close, you can say that, Antivenom doesn't deserve this point over here, which would put maybe the score at 4-2 or something for Antivenom and Void. But yeah, Antivenom is still leading based on those criterias. Now here I'm dueling Bishop with my 3 stars. And this Bishop is only rank 3 because I have a video coming up soon where I take him to rank 4. Unfortunately, I didn't get the time to test him or duel him as like this. What I'm trying to show over here is obviously both Void and Antivenom are immune to Incinerates, but you're going to notice if you watch carefully, and I know I've sped it up, but you're going to notice that at times Antivenom is going to fail Bishop from triggering his prowess because his disorients are weak at the start, which is only 12.5%. But if you stick them after 50 combo meter, they go up to 18% each. So, you can get up to a max of 72%, which is pretty damn good. let's say even if you don't get to 72%, you can get like 60 to 65% disorient, which, is like about the same as, what is that guy? Kingpin's SP1, the defensive ability accuracy reduction. All right, over here, I didn't award any points to any of them because I think with Void it's a bit RNG dependent, but what I wanted to show is that, or what I wanted to compare is to see who is the better champion who can inflict petrifies and shut down Doom. So you can see those unblockable failed, and I'm going to get to that in a bit. But the key point over here was, excuse me. The key point over here was to see who can deal with those Aura of Hazarath better. And I think if you don't consider, excuse me, if you don't consider the RNG aspect or the damage, they both can deal pretty equally. All right, here I wanted to try out the 1% regen poison electro. Now, of course, you can just bring in Nick Fury's energy, but I didn't want to do that for Void particularly. I don't think Void is a good enough answer, or even if he can answer, you will just need to turtle up and hope. Just hope that you get all those petrifies up. He can do it with Nick Fury synergy, but then what I'm doing over here is that at the bottom side, or at the right bottom, I brought in the synergy with Spider-Man 2099. So Antivenom just shuts down the regen buff. There is no more regen buff, and I'm also trying to place Disorients so that I don't take damage back from him, or at least half of the time I'm not taking damage back. On the top side, I'm not bringing any synergy, and I'm trying to see how much or how Antivenom can deal with this fight. So I'm mostly relying over there on Petrifies, but I'm also relying a bit on Disorients to not take any damage. So there are two ways to do that fight, which is pretty interesting to me. There's also a 1% regen Poison Red Hulk in 6.1 on the way, not on the way to be Cavalier, but in that same quest, the Crossbones quest. So it's an option, just for those who wanted to test it out. Disorient. So this is the Tantrum path, which is a unique ability that Antivenom has, that he can inflict Disorients, as you all know. I've sped it up a bit over here because this was a bit of a long fight. There is a trick now over here how you can keep your utility and your damage. So I know he has a drawback where you have to lose your utility to take damage, and he still has that. I'm not gonna say that he can get rid of it, but there is a way where you can try and have both a bit of utility and your damage. So what I do over here is that on my 19th, 29th, 39th, whatever hit or combo meter, I throw my SP2 and I make sure I only have 3 Disorients max. What that does is when I throw my SP2, it consumes the existing Disorients, but then as soon as my special hit connects, it's going to give another Disorient. It's going to place another Disorient on Immortal Hulk. So that means that I'm not going to gain that damage back from Tantrum. And again, Void can do this. He's just going to be slow. You cannot drop any specials. I don't think you guys would have liked to watch that because that would have been even slower than this. Because Immortal Hulk has a node where you need to knock him down or your damage is reduced by 50%. So that's what I wanted to show over here. Now, I'm facing off against my Kitty Pryde again, a duel. And I'm going to place a lot of Disorients. The main idea, once again, as mentioned before, the main idea here was to show his potency of the potency of his Disorients. They're not the best. I'm not going to say they are, because they aren't clearly, but they do work when you need them. And, they can shut down certain aspects of the opponent where whenever you hit them, something happens. So, for example, over here, whenever you crit, she's going to gain a prowess. But if you look closely, half of the time, or more than half of the crits, we are failing her prowess. Again, you're not going to bring Antivenom to face Kitty, but this is just an example to show part of his utility. So this can also work on other nodes, of course not Biohazard or something, because you're probably going to bleed out before you get those potent disorients on. But it's a neat bit of utility, I must say. I don't remember what other champ. Oh, he will be really good against Rintra, because Rintra gains that energy. He has 60% chance on contact to place a neutralize, and then for each neutralized proc, he gains a charge, and that makes him go unstoppable or root whatever. So I think it might be a decent Antivenom could be a decent counter over there. Okay, so here I'm dueling my Tigra, and I want to show the unblockable fail mechanic. So I'm not at 30 combo, so I'm not failing that unblockable consistently, but as soon as I get to 30 combo, I fail that unblockable consistently. And the good thing about this is, this only works against Mystic Champions, but the good thing about that is that it also works on Unblockable Finale Path, which is quite an interesting ability to have. It's specifically geared to against Doom, but hey. Now over here, the last thing I wanted to show is that Antivenom is the only science champion in game who can make the opponents go buff immune. This may not be the best example, but I brought in the Spider 99 synergy, and then I'm just spamming heavy attacks, and he's never going to get his armor up buff back. He gets the regen a little bit for a few seconds, and then they're staggered away, which is pretty great. I mean, normally you would only associate Mystic Champions with this ability, but it's now on a Science Champion. So we're coming back to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think. If you didn't like my ranking system, that's completely fine. I just wanted to share with you guys that Antivenom is a great champion. I don't know why people still think that he's not up there. I know he has that one major drawback of utility trade-off for damage, but comparing him to Void, that is a big task. I mean, you have to admit that is a huge undertaking, and even though, in my opinion, he did better, maybe you thought that he didn't do better, but it's hard to say that he didn't keep up with Void. But anyways, let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys later.